Good morning, children. Welcome to Narayana Live Classes. Today we shall discuss the key for assignment 8 dated 11th of July 2020. So this assignment has a creative writing discourse. So let me first read the question for you. In the lesson Bamera Potanna, the jewel of Telugu literature, Potanna dedicated his Bhagavatam to Lord Rama, refusing the orders of King Padmanayaka. Now, imagine yourself as Potanna and develop a conversation between you and the king. So, for creative writing, that is conversation that is given in the assignment, we need to know the assessment indicators for the discourse. For conversation, we have 10 assessment indicators. Okay. So, creativity lies in how you develop conversation, but to write a conversation, you should know the assessment indicators. So now we shall discuss the assessment indicators of conversation. Now we shall discuss the 10 assessment indicators that we need to bear in mind while writing a conversation. The first assessment indicator is that writing dialogues with 5 to 10 exchanges. If we are conversing, like you and I are conversing, I speak, you speak, that is one exchange. Okay. So our conversation should have 5 to 10 exchanges of dialogues. Okay. That is the first assessment indicator. Writing dialogues with 5 to 10 exchanges. Now the second assessment indicator. The second assessment indicator is using proper sequence of exchanges. Okay. So though we have 5 to 10 exchanges, altogether it is one discourse, it is one conversation. Okay, so that cohesion is to be maintained. Okay, so that means it is one discourse, so it should be in proper sequence. You cannot have discrete dialogues put together. Because it is one discourse, you should maintain that oneness, you should maintain proper sequence. That is the second assessment indicator. Now, the third assessment indicator, sustaining conversation as per social norms. So, this indicator means that when the characters converse, when we develop a conversation, the sentences that we use should be according to social norms. Irrespective of the intimacy between the characters, irrespective of who two characters are, how close they are, we should maintain the dialogues according to social norms. You begin with formal greeting, develop conversation, and a graceful departure is required. You cannot begin abruptly or end abruptly. Okay. So, because if you and I meet, don't we greet each other when we meet? We do, right? So, we begin with greeting, then develop the conversation with exchanges of dialogues which are relevant, and then we conclude gracefully. So, that is what we mean by the third assessment indicator, that is maintaining, like sustaining conversation as per social norms. Right? Now, the fourth assessment indicator. The fourth assessment indicator is using discourse markers. Like usage of the words like well, because we do that, right? When we converse, we make use of these. So, discourse markers are to be used. Discourse markers like well, precisely, exactly, are to be used in our conversation. Okay. Then the next assessment indicator is using short responses and question tags. Okay. So when we develop a conversation, short responses and question tags are to be used. Okay. Like if one character says something, the other person immediately responds saying, is it? Okay, oh yes, or question tags. So usage of question tags, usage of discourse markers should be done in our conversation. So that is the fifth assessment indicator. So let me again tell you the first 5 assessment indicators. First, we should write 5 to 10 exchanges of dialogues. Second, using proper sequence of exchanges. Okay, that cohesion is to be maintained, coherence is to be maintained. Okay, our dialogue should be coherent, sequential. Okay, now the third assessment indicator, sustaining conversation as per social norms. Formal greeting, developing the conversation, and then proper graceful departure. Then fourth assessment indicator, using discourse markers like the usage of well, precisely. And then fifth assessment indicator is encouraging the usage of short responses and question tags. Okay, so these are the first 5 assessment indicators. Now we'll do the remaining 5. Okay, then the sixth assessment indicator is you should write dialogues apt to the context. Okay, it should be relevant to the context. See, conversation is based on some textual input. You are given some input, and according to the input given, we develop a conversation between 2 characters in the input. Okay, so when 2 characters speak, our exchanges of dialogue should be according to the context. Okay, you should not write something which is there in the lesson but not related to the incident given in the input. Okay, so stick to the context. That is the 6th assessment indicator. Now the 7th one. The 7th assessment indicator says using appropriate cohesive devices. As I told you, though we have a number of exchanges of dialogues, altogether it is one conversation. That oneness should be maintained. That one, like as a whole, this discourse, this writing is one discourse. So that oneness should be maintained, that cohesion should be maintained, proper linkers, proper sequences add up to this. Okay, then the 8th assessment indicator. The 8th assessment indicator is using well-formed constructions. Okay, so as you all know, English is a stupid structural language. It is structured language. Okay, so when English is a structured language, a little difference in the structure tampers the meaning of it. Okay, so proper structure, proper subject-verb agreement. So your sentences that you use to write these dialogues should be correct. They should be grammatically correct, structurally correct. So you should use proper structures of sentences. Your sentences should be well-formed. Okay, well-formed constructions. Then the 9th assessment indicator, maintaining conventions of writing. Conventions of writing are proper capitalizations and sentence endings. You know the rules of grammar, right? Where to use capital letter, proper nouns when you the first letter of the first word in a sentence, and I, the personal pronoun I, should always be in capital. You know the usage of capital letter. You know where to use capital letters for proper nouns, isn't it? So you should follow the conventions of writing. Proper capitalization, proper sentence endings should be used. And the last indicator, the 10th assessment indicator, is proper punctuation. The usage of other punctuation marks like commas, question marks, exclamatory marks, semicolon, hyphen, all these different punctuation marks have to be used. So mind you, irrespective of the input given to you, whatever be the question, if it is a conversation, then these 10 assessment indicators are to be used. So keep in mind this 10 assessment indicators, and based on the question that you are given, you develop a conversation following these assessment indicators. I hope these are clear to you. Again, for any writing discourse, it is a creative writing discourse. So creativity depends on individual, your ability to write beautifully, your creativity, your imagination counts for all this. Okay, but again, if it is a conversation, 10 assessment indicators are to be borne in mind. Okay, I hope I'm clear about the assessment indicators of the conversation. These are to be borne in mind while developing a conversation. Thank you, children. Have a good day.